All right. And this is the part where we're going to stop talking, right? Thank you. All right. So this is going to be pretty interactive. I'm going to go over. I'm going to pretend we're starting from the beginning. Thank you guys for coming to our presentation on financial aid basics, standing on business, financial aid letters. Okay. So this is going to be interactive. I'm going to go through some slides. I'm going to pace it out. I'll ask you guys if I'm talking a little bit too fast or if I need to speed it up because it's a lot of information. You don't need to memorize any of this information. I'll even send you this presentation. And when you come down to see me, I'll explain it all over again. Normally, this is a presentation that we have in November and December after you have kind of gotten your FAFSA out, because it normally comes out in October, right? And we'll talk about scholarships and all this other stuff, just so you can see how the process is going to go. But I didn't do it in November, December, because the FAFSA wasn't open and it was just too much stress and too much drama. Okay, so we're going to go through it now. Okay. So for those of you who have not completed your FAFSA, your free application or federal student aid, is the application that you're going to fill out so that you can get federal aid from the government in the form of a grant or a loan. So when you hear the word grant and scholarship, those are good words. Why are they good words? Free. Yes, you don't have to pay that money back. When you hear a loan, people start to get a little stressed because you have to do what? You have to pay that money back, right? So, of course, nobody wants to take a loan, but unfortunately, the way that this raggedy college financial aid stuff is set up, or just bills in general, they're too much, they're inflated. Most people have to borrow something, okay? So you'll fill out the form so you can find out how much in federal grant money you're eligible for and how much loan money you're eligible for. So we're going to show you a graph on that in a few slides, okay? Also, what you're going to have to fill out is your FIA state grant application. So normally when you do your FAFSA and you finish it, the grant application is the next thing that you have to do for the state. But since FAFSA had to be redone, they redid FIA as well. And they keep telling me every week, it's coming out in 2 weeks. It's coming out in 2 weeks. So I'm going to hit my people up again tomorrow. As soon as they release it, I'll send you guys an email. You guys are going to get an email if you did your FAFSA from the state grant people. And it's going to come from a email called grantus.org. And before I get started, you guys should have some kind of a phone or a notebook or notes or something that you're writing down, because 90% of the information that I'm giving you guys is new information. And so as you guys are becoming adults, whether you're working or whether you're going to college, nobody's going to come back and repeat information that you missed because you didn't take any notes. Okay. So just be mindful that y'all got to start taking notes, because you got to remember stuff. Okay. The state grant application again is grantus.org. So you're going to start checking for that in your mail, and also look in your spam, because it's going to be a link in there for you to fill out your state grant. Your state grant will determine how much money you get from the state of Pennsylvania. And so you can get up to $5,000 in state grant aid if you're eligible for it. Okay. You think 5,000 is a lot of money? It's going to keep you from remember that. Okay. So also what I'll do on your senior survey, we already had you guys to put down what status you are on your FAFSA. So we're also going to use that list to start calling you down so you can get that done, because most people forget to do that. Okay. Any questions so far? Is my pace okay? All right. All right, so number one, phase one is sending the FAFSA and the FIA. Most of you guys have done that already. Some of you guys have done a form called the CSS profile, or the College Scholarship Search. That is an application that maybe 250 to 300 colleges use that are private schools, so that they can forecast aid. It's a big application, so if you had to do that, you would know, because it's a really long application. So students who did the CSS profile, those schools sent your aid letters out earlier. So if you hear about people that got letters like a month ago, 2 or 3 months ago, that's why they got those earlier. Okay. Phase 2 was the waiting. So that's what we're doing right now. Waiting too long, right? Too long. So some of you may get selected for what's called a verification. So a verification means that they've gone through your paperwork, and they'll randomly select students to get verification just to make sure that the information that you sent was legit. And then some people have like clear errors that need to be fixed. This year, they're not going to do a bunch of verifications. Why do you think so? Why do you think not? Because we don't have time for all of that, right? It's too late. So they're just going to have to eat that this year. But some of you who have clear errors, they will ask you for maybe a copy of your tax return, your parents' tax return. They may ask you for something called a tax transcript, right? Which is something that you go on the IRS website, on this website here, to prove that you did or did not file taxes that year. And they also may ask for a copy of your bank statements. If you have a savings or a checking account and you noted that you had S amount of dollars in savings, so they want to verify that. Okay. Then phase 3 is decision. They want you to drop that money, drop that deposit. These deposits will hold your spot to go to the school. And in some cases, they may charge you an additional deposit if you are going to stay on campus, right? So those deposits can be anywhere from $150, but most of them are around $250, $350. Some of them are $1,000, depending on where you're going in some random cases, okay? So you want to pay attention to that. So you have to drop that deposit to hold your spot. The national deadline for deposits has been May 1st for a long time, but some of your schools have pushed that deadline back. Some of you still have a May 1st deadline. So who still has a May 1st deadline? Anybody? All right, good. So just make sure that you pay attention to your school's deadlines. You can either look for emails that they sent you, or if you can look in the email that I sent you, the last 3, the exact same email, there's a link in there somewhere that takes you to a website so that you can see who has pushed their deadlines back. Okay. Any questions? All right, cool. All right. I'm going to speed through this because this is old now. Most of you are dependent students, meaning that you live with your parent or guardian. Even if you stay with your grandmom or your aunt, you may still be in contact with your biological parent. And so they're going to ask for their information for your FAFSA. So you're considered a dependent student. Some of you may be considered an independent student because you may have had a fire, or you may have been evicted from your home, or some situation that cause you to have to move from your home and either live with someone else, live in a hotel, live in a shelter, a bunch of different scenarios. And if that has happened during the course of your senior year, in most cases, you can be considered an independent student. Some of you have lived with your grandmom or your auntie forever, blah, blah, blah. You may be an independent student, but most of you are dependent. The second thing is undocumented students cannot fill out the FAFSA form. Okay. But some colleges may have some kind of separate form for undocumented students, or you can fill out a paper application. So if that's the case and you're kind of figuring out what you want to do, let me know. Okay. And then lastly, some of you haven't filled out the FAFSA because your parents say, oh, we make too much money, we're not going to get anything. Well, you might not get a state grant, you might not get a federal grant, but you will be eligible for a federal loan. So we know you don't want to borrow any money, but it's better to get a federal loan than it is to get a bank loan, because the interest rate on the federal loan is going to be lower. And it also gives you a lot of options to repay the loan. Okay. So you always want to take that one over a bank loan. Also, you don't have to do a credit check. You guys know what credit is, right? Okay. So you don't have to do a credit check to get a federal loan. But if you want to get a bank loan, if you need some additional money, y'all don't have any, well, some of y'all might have credit. Somebody may put an electric bill up in your name and you don't know. It might be funny, but it might be true too. But if you go to a bank, that means you have to have what's called a cosigner. What do you think that is? Some of you may know, especially you business math people. What's a cosigner? And it's okay if you don't know. It's grown people conversation. So basically, a cosigner means you don't have any credit, or you don't have enough credit. So the bank wants to make sure that somebody's going to pay this bill. right? And so they want a cosigner. Something just dropped, didn't it? Maybe it didn't. So you want a cosigner for that particular bill. So you'll have to get somebody to co-sign it and get that pulled out in your name. All right, you got it? All right, cool. Regardless of how much that school costs that you have on your list, if you think it's a good fit, keep it on there until you get your letters, okay? You want to make sure you use your non-school email address for anything that's college related, because your email address is going to get cut off in July. So if you have your school email address on your FAFSA and everything else, you want to make sure you change it, okay? And also, I need you to make sure that you don't get so stuck to your first choice of college that you're not even willing to look at your second choice. Because in some cases, when you get your bill for your first choice, you might not be able to afford that, and you need to look at your second choice. You also need to think about if you're going to decide to commute to a school, right? So there's nothing wrong with commuting to a school. We're not worrying about what everybody else is thinking, what everybody else is saying, and what everybody else is doing. Because when it's time to pay the bill, are they going to be at your house? Are they going to say, yo, bro, I got you, how much you need? No. So we're not worrying about what they're saying. You have to do what's best for your family. All right. Y'all good? All right. This is information right here that I need you to take a picture of. This is what's going to save you a lot of money or cost you a lot of money if you don't do this correctly. Okay. All right. On your financial aid letter, and I'm going to show you some sample letters at the end, you're going to have 3 types of loans possibly on your financial aid letter. Number 1, you're going to get something called, you may be eligible for what's called an unsubsidized loan. That's going to be $2,000 if you get that. Everybody's is going to be $2,000. And so what unsubsidized means is that the government is not going to pay the interest on your loan for you. You're going to be responsible for the interest on your loan while you are in school. So most likely that's going to be $25 a month. So when I say $25 now, you're like, okay, I'll waste that at the Wawa. But when you're in school, $25 is $25, right? So if you got a rich auntie or somebody in your family keeps saying, is there anything I can do to help you with school? You sure can. Can you pay the unsubsidized loan on my student loan, interest on my student loans? And if they really mean what they say, they'll say, sure, I'll take care of that. All right. You can also put it on hold. You don't have to pay that. Just remember that it's going to collect interest. So you got that one? All right. The second thing you're going to see on your financial aid letter is something called a subsidized loan. That's usually going to be $3,500. Subsidized means that the government is going to pay the interest on that loan while you are in school. Okay. So it doesn't start accruing until after you finish school or you take a break. Okay. Then the third type of loan that you'll see on your financial aid letter is something called a Parent Plus loan. Basically, what they do with that, if they've given you some aid and there's still a big balance, they try to be slick and say Parent Plus loan, so it doesn't look like it's a balance that's left on the bottom. I would try to avoid taking the Parent Plus loan if I were you. Your parent would have to take that out. The credit check is going to be less than if they go to a bank, but it's just an additional expense. So again, that's a conversation between you and your family. Once it starts to go where a Parent Plus loan is $8,000, $10,000, $20,000, but if it's like 4 or 5, you can kind of decide what you want to do. Okay. All right. There's 3 different types of loans that you can get in general. So the first one that I talked to you guys about in the last slide are all government loans. Okay. They have a lower interest rate, and they also have different options for you to repay it, right? So you can they'll give you the paperwork and it says, okay, we've done all this math, so you're going to owe $200 a month on your loan, right? Or you can say, hey, the job that I have right now, I can't afford to pay $200. So can I get something called a save loan, or they used to call it I forget what the type of the loan is, but it's basically based off of your income-based repayment, but I think they call it save now. So you can get an option, but just remember, if you get that, they're going to stretch out the loan for you. Okay. And again, when you guys get your financial aid packages from the school in your portal, all the stuff is going to be in there because they're going to make you take a quiz and all that stuff to make sure you understand it. The second type of loan that you could be eligible for is something called the PA Forward loan. That's going to be through your that's going to be through the state of Pennsylvania. They have a relationship with this loan company. So sometimes they say that the interest rate on this one is cheaper than the bank. I think, oh, I might be okay. We'll see. It's too late now. So the interest rate on that one, they say sometimes is lower than the bank, but they have extra fees in there. So sometimes by the time you add together the fees and the interest, it might be more than taking it from a bank. So you want to talk to a bank if you need to get some extra stuff. Also, there's a guy named Michael Burke, who is our state rep. And so his information is on my financial aid page at the bottom. So you can call him, or we can call him together with your parent or guardian to kind of explain those differences. I don't know enough about it to explain it. I'm just going to tell you something and make up something to sound good, and it's not going to be correct. So we're going to go through Mr. Michael Burke, okay? All right, so does anybody have any questions so far? You guys understood all that? All right, cool. Now let's get to the good stuff. All right, so we talked about the loans, Parent Plus loan, paying your loans back. So if you are a dependent student, the maximum amount of money that the government is going to allow you to borrow is $27,000. Okay, so that sounds like a lot, but the national average of what people borrow is higher than that. You want to look at how much money you're borrowing versus how much your first year's salary is going to be. So they usually say don't borrow any more money than your first year's salary on a job. So that means you guys have to do some research on jobs and locations and stuff to kind of see how much you're going to make. Okay. Your money is going to be due as far as your loans. You have to start paying them back 6 months after graduation or 6 months after you take a break. Because some of you guys, life is going to happen and you got to take a break from school. And so they're going to expect you to start paying that loan back after 6 months. So then you have to get back in contact with the government and say, hey, can I get something called a forbearance? I mean, they're going to kind of push it off, but just know that you're still going to have to pay interest on that. Okay. All right. We talked about that. Personal email address. Also, you may be given the option to do work study, which means you have a job on campus. You want to get the job on campus before you get a regular job. Because if you have work study, let's say you work in the library, you think you could be able to do your homework at the desk at the library? Can you do your work at the drive-through window at Chick-fil-A? You can't do that. So you want to try to do that first. And this is the last little fact. For every $10,000 that you borrow, that means that your monthly payment is going to be $100. You got it? So if you borrow $40,000, what is your monthly payment for your student loans? $400, okay? So you just want to be careful. For those of you who know you have to go to graduate school, especially if you're going to go into education or you get some kind of job, find out if that job is going to pay for you to go to school. So all the teachers here, most likely we have the school district will reimburse us for going to school up to a certain amount. So they've used that system and so you pay the money and then you give them a receipt or whatever, and they'll give you that money back. So try to do that before you just try to borrow all this extra money on your own. Because when you keep hearing about all these people that owe all this money, most of them is from graduate school or because they put things off or missed payments and things like that. Okay. All right. Now, you guys should have received an email that looks like this if you did your FAFSA. Okay. So if you have your phone, how many of you don't know if you got this or not? Okay, so everybody else saw this already? All right, cool. So this is the email that shows you what your student aid index is. That's the number that the colleges are going to use to decide how much money you're going to get in financial aid. So if you go down here and you look and you see where it says estimated student aid SAI, these different numbers, that's the number that they're going to use. So the lowest number that you can get is a negative 1,500, and the highest number you can get is, I don't know, $500,000, right? Or 500,000. But the cutoff for you to get a Pell Grant is 9459. That's the magic number. Okay, so I'm going to show you that part. All right, cool. You guys good? Okay. All right. So this is a page that nobody's going to ever show you. I promise you that. So take a picture of this. I've done probably 60 of these presentations, and I've been to a number of them, and nobody ever explains this to you. So this is how you're going to find out what kind of aid you're going to get. And let me move this little box here. All right. So I just updated these numbers about 4 hours ago. I got these are real numbers now. Okay. So the 24 to 2025 financial aid award amounts, when you start getting your letters, these are some of the numbers that you're going to see on your letter. So everything that we've talked about in the past 20 minutes is going to start coming together after we go through this page. So when you get your financial aid letter, there are 4 different types of money that you can get. Okay. So number 1, you may be eligible for a federal Pell Grant. What do we say when we hear grants and scholarships? Those are good words because free. You don't have to pay that money back. So if your student aid index, if you see here in yellow, is between a negative 1,500 to 9,495, that means that you are eligible for a Pell Grant. If you get the negative 500, you get the full amount. If you get 9,496, you won't get a Pell Grant. Okay. But you can still possibly get a state grant if you're not eligible for the Pell Grant. You got that part? All right. The next amount of money that you can get is your state grant. So your state grant money is going to be allotted by the cost of the tuition at the school that you're going to go to. So if you look at this graph, you'll see if you're going to go to a community college or any school that's up to $13,000, the max that you're going to get on your letter is $2,660. Okay. If you go to a public state college, which the tuition is between, let's say, 13 and 20, the max amount that you're going to get is $42.94, and so on and so forth. You see all these other numbers here, right? Where are my people who want to go out of state and get away from your parents? Raise your hand. I won't tell because we can't see you on the video. Okay. Well, for those of you who didn't raise your hand and we know you want to go out of state, please keep in mind that you won't get any state money if you go out of state, unless you go to Delaware, DC, Massachusetts, Ohio, West Virginia, and Vermont, and the max you're going to get is $600. So I'm not saying don't go out of state. I'm just saying when you go out of state, remember that math, okay? Then the third type of money you can get is something called a SEOG grant. So those people who have this number right here, this negative 1,500 to 9,495, those are the only people that will get that money because their income is lower. So they're trying to give you some extra money. Okay. You guys got that so far? Any questions?
How do you apply for those grants?
The FIA State grant application. Remember the one I told you that they haven't sent you yet, but it's going to come?
And the SEOG, is that the same?
Yeah, so the SEOG, when the colleges get your FAFSA, when the government gets your FAFSA and you put the colleges on that list, they're going to send that number and all your information to the colleges, and that they're going to use that number to decide how much you get. So if you're eligible for $7,395, every single school, you're going to get that amount for every school. So if it's not on your letter, there's an error, or if it's not the same across the board, there's an error. Okay. You want to also make sure your state grant is not missing, but we'll talk about that in a second. The SEOG grant, you don't apply for that. If your number is in that lower amount, they'll automatically give it to you if they have it. Okay. And then the fourth type of money that you can get is your loan. Okay. So the first year, everyone who's eligible for a loan gets $5,500 to unsubsidized and subsidized. What do we say subsidized loan is? What is a subsidized loan?
They pay for your interest.
Who is they?
Government.
Yes, so the government covers your interest while you're in school. What is an unsubsidized loan?
It won't cover it. The
Right.
government will not.
The government will not pay the interest on your loan. That's when you want to talk to your rich auntie and see if your rich auntie is going to pay that $25 a month for you. Okay. All right. So the first year you'll get $5,500, the second year $6,500, the third 75, the fourth 7,500, and then if you're an independent student, they'll let you borrow more money because you don't have parents or anybody to rely on. So you can borrow more money, but remember that's going to accumulate more debt, but you got to do what you got to do, right? All right. So now let's get to the letters. And I'm skipping that. All right. So now let's get to the letters. Y'all want to see some letters?
Yes.
All right. So now we're going to apply everything we learned. All right. Just trying to see what time it is. Oh, we made good time. All right. So I'm going to show you 4 letters. And these letters are for the same person. This is from last school year. So the numbers, because it's last year, are going to be a little bit off, but very, very close. Okay. All letters will look different. Some letters will do all the math for you and tell you how much you owe at the bottom and all this stuff. And some of them will just be like, this is how much we're giving you. You're going to have to go on the internet, do a search, and figure out how much it costs and do the math for yourself. Okay. From what I'm hearing, they passed some kind of law next year. They have to do the math for everybody because who has time for that? Okay. All right. So this one is from Widener University. All right. So most of them typically look like this. So you see that federal Pell Grant. How much is the federal Pell Grant? The federal Pell Grant for this person, I'm sorry, for the total. So they split your bill into semesters. So you have semester 1 and semester 2. So you don't pay the whole thing all at once. You either pay the whole semester 1 all at once, or you can do a payment plan. So you pay like $35, $45 to set up your payment account. And then you can either pay it in 4 payments and the last payment will be due, let's say at the end of October, early November, or you can put down a deposit and then you can make those 4 payments. But they're going to start asking for money like in July, beginning of August. They're going to start asking for something. Okay. So what is the total for the federal Pell Grant? Yep. So this was a pre-number before they changed the number, but last year after the board people of the state kind of did some votes, they changed that number to that 7395 that you saw. So this student received the full Pell Grant. Okay. The PA State Grant, how much is that? 5098. This is a private school. So if you go back and look at our graph here, 7395, which on that letter says 78, but the private school says 5,000. Okay. So now you're seeing that that is the amount for that student for that school. All right. Then what else do you see? Presidential scholarship is $31,000. Campus Experience Grant is $2,000. Federal SEOG. So this student, because they were eligible for the full amount, this college has some SEOG money. It's called the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. They had extra money to give to this particular student. You can get up to 4,000, but the most I've ever seen is 2. So I think probably the people who probably get 4,000 are people who live like in California, New York, those type of places where the cost of living is much higher. Okay. The Widener Grant in Aid, $10,000. So why do you think they're giving the students so much money? Yes, but I mean, that's what all of the federal and state stuff is for. But this person is also probably a what kind of student? Good student. And it must be somebody that they want based off of the type of students that they're trying to come to their school. So if you fit whatever it is that they're trying to, class that they're trying to put together for that year, they're going to offer you some more money to entice you to come, right? So then you see the subsidized loans. Anytime you see sub, that's the subsidized loan for $3,500. The federal unsub for $2,000 and the federal work study for $2,000. Now, you guys with me so far? Is the number starting to come together now? Okay. Anytime you're doing your letters, and you guys can pick up some stuff here. You guys can pass this around. These are some little sample worksheets that you can use to do your math. For the first time ever, I'm running out of these. I always have some left over. This is the same thing. It just looks different, okay? So just pass this around. You can use that to do your math, and also when you come to see me, we'll use that to do your math, okay?
So what's a work study, a federal work study exactly?
So federal work study means that you have a job on campus. That's the one I told you about. If you work in the library, you can sit at the desk and all that kind of stuff, okay? When you're doing your calculations, do not put the work study in there. I hate when they put this in there because it's making you think that you got 2,000 extra dollars. But work study is a job. So how many of you guys have had a job before? So when you get a job, do they give you all the money before you start working? Not even if your mama or your grandmama owns it, right? You got to start working first and then wait and get a check. So they shouldn't put this in your letter because it's making you think that you have some money that you don't. So anytime you do your calculations or when you sit with me, I'm crossing that out. So the student really doesn't get 63,993, they're getting 61,993. You got it? Okay. So on here, I think I wrote some notes here. So after we did the math for this particular student, they still owe $13,347, even though they gave them all that money. Okay. A question that you want to ask, you want to read through these letters that they give you with all this stuff on here. You see all these scholarships and these grants that are coming from the college. You want to find out if they are renewable, meaning are you going to get that again every single year? So years previous, they would kind of front load your letters and give you all this money, get you all excited, but then you're only going to get the 1 year. So they've been doing better at giving it to you every year, but you want to read the document that they're giving you to see if it says it underneath. If it doesn't say it, what do you think you need to do? If you want to find out if it's renewable or not. We send us some emails, right? So you can send an email or you can ask me to send it for you and include you and all that kind of stuff, but you want to make sure it's renewable. Because remember, you got year 2, 3, 4, and unfortunately, some people, it takes them 5 or 6 to finish for various reasons, okay? All right. Any questions about this one? Ready to look at the next one?
Yes.
All right, this is the same person. And this is for Lincoln University. See how different this one looks? It's in that old computer dot matrixy type of type, right? It's kind of set up the same where it says total, fall, spring, but the columns are in separate orders. You see that there's a Pell Grant there, right? You see SEOG, a Dean Scholarship. We have that Parent Plus loan that we talked about. It's $4,000, so it's not too bad. We see the sub and the unsub, right? All right, so tell me about this one. What are your observations? So there's no work study on here. And this student, remember, it's the same person. If you see the Pell Grant amount is the same amount on this letter too, right? So they probably are eligible for work study, but they probably either didn't check it on their application or for whatever reason, they didn't give it to them. So what do you think we did for this student about the work study? We made a phone call, we sent an email, okay? What other observations do you see on this one? Something's missing. If the student was eligible for the full Pell Grant, what else should they have?
State.
Yes, they should have had a state grant, but it is missing. So I also sent them an email and said, yo, this is missing. Can we fix this, please? Okay. So we sent that email out. So I think we did some math on here. State grant missing, work study missing, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Any questions about this one? All right, next we're going to look at LaSalle. I like this one because LaSalle does all the pretty math for you, but they cost more too. So they need to do some math, right? Okay. This is what these letters should look like, all right? So they're telling you about the fall, the spring, and the total. They're telling you what the tuition is. What does tuition mean?
Price of like entrance
Entrance, you're on the right path.
of the school.
Yeah, how much it costs to educate you at the school, okay? Then you're also going to be charged fees. And then if you stay on campus, they're going to do housing and food. So how much does it cost for you to stay on campus at LaSalle?
51,000.
51,110, okay? Just to stay on campus. So they gave the student a founder scholarship for $16,000. And LaSalle is a school that you can commute to. It's in Philadelphia, kind of in the Germantown, Logan area. So we have a couple of kids here that go to LaSalle and commute there. But they gave this university grant, which is $21,200. The total grants that they gave the student was $37,200. And then the loan options are $5,500. Okay. Give me your observations on this one.
It's a lot neater and easier to follow.
It's a lot easier to follow. Anything else? And I think they did some math on here too, but I don't want to give it away. Hold on. Now you got your work study for $1,800. Okay.
They get the Pell Grant.
Right. This is the same student. So their Pell Grant is missing. And what else is missing? State grant is missing. So we had to shoot them an email and say, hey, can you fix this? All right. So you got your federal grant, state grant, and the SEOG is missing. So everybody doesn't have to give you the SEOG, but we asking for that too. Okay. And there may be a page missing because they usually do the rest of the math for you too. All right, then this is the last one, is Cabrini. Now this one, they did do some math for you. Okay, so I'm gonna go quick because I hear the buses telling y'all it's time to go. So your tuition is $34,828. Your books and supplies. Well, first of all, this one shows you your direct cost. Direct cost means you have to pay that money. That's what you have to pay to go there. Indirect, you don't have to give them that money, but they're giving you an estimate of how much those things are going to cost so that you can budget for that amount. Got it? So you got your direct cost for your tuition, room and board if you stay on campus of $49,000. Indirect of $6,000. So they're adding that together. I don't know why they're doing that. All right, they got the Cabrini grant, the Provost scholarship, the PA State grant, all the loans on there. Work study, of course, they put work study in those calculations. Remember, we're not doing work study in our calculations. What's missing? Pell Grant is missing.
State grant.
Yeah, state grant is on there. So it's either missing because there was an error or the student probably forgot to put it on their FAFSA too. Okay, so if you get an award letter and it has nothing on it except pay all this, you probably didn't put it on your FAFSA. Just put it on there and they'll find that in 3 days. Okay, now they actually are doing some math for the student. Okay, I said, girl, there's some SEOG missing. Let's ask for that too. So we asked for that too. So right here, the math for this particular student, the balance was, I think, $56.79. We added the work study back. So this student's bill was $7,179. It's better than that other one that we saw was like 20, right? So obviously they didn't go to Cabrini because Cabrini closed. We caught that. So they went to a different school that matched their package. Okay. So you guys kind of have an idea of how these things can look. We're not going to go over this one because we don't have time, but I'll just show you this other one. This is a totally different student, and this is for Hofstra, which I think is in New York. Okay. So this format is weird too, but they broke down the stuff even more. Ain't that scary? Net bill cost after all the loans. Heartburn City. Yeah, the tuition was $55,000, the food and housing. So this bill was $74,000. Okay. So after I have stressed you out, you have choices. So number one, we're gonna make sure that we don't pay any deposits until we have all of the information from every single school. Even if your first choice, even if your first choice looks good, we're gonna wait for that second and third because it could be free 99. You don't know that, right? Or you can commute and make it work. What I don't want you to do is to get so stuck on your first choice that you say, I don't care what we gotta do. If we gotta eat bologna sandwiches every night, I'm going to the school. We're gonna borrow all this money. Because remember, 10 to 15 years from now, you got to start paying that money. You're going to see all that interest on that thing, right? So we want to make sure we don't borrow too much money. So of course you want to apply for all of the scholarships that I've been putting out that y'all haven't been applying for and ignoring my emails and ignoring, except for a couple people in here, they fill out everything I give them. And then sometimes when I get phone calls and they just ask me to give names, I just give the names to the people who come fill out the stuff all the time because I know they're going to fill it out. And so they're getting all the money, right? So we want to apply for these scholarships, but remember that most of those scholarships that you're going to be filling out applications for are only going to be good for the 1 year. So you're not going to gauge whether you're going to go to the school based off of scholarships that you got for the 1 year. Okay. All right. So what questions do y'all have? Besides, where's the Tylenol? Where's the, what's the stuff they take for heartburn, upset stomach, diarrhea? That one. Pepto-Bismol.
So they should just be coming out soon.
Yep, so those letters are going to be coming out. We talked about this early. Guys, can y'all stop talking in the back, please? The letters are going to be coming out soon, any day. If you end up having a May 1st deadline and you need some more time, let me know. I just sent an email to a college this morning asking for an extension for a student. I will be annoying. I will be a pit bull because this is a bunch of, well, I can't say it because it's being recorded, but you picking up what I'm putting down, right? I hate the whole thing this year. It's just ridiculous. But just trust us. I'll be here for a while. Even in the summertime, I'll still be sticking around just to make sure that everybody is straight. Don't be stressing about making a mistake. You email me. My schedule is pretty clear all next week except for Thursday because we having a party. So if you haven't signed up for the ice cream social, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go ahead and sign up. I will hate for you to be standing outside looking at everybody eating ice cream and you looking sad. Okay? Any questions? It's going to be in the cafeteria. So you'll get the tickets the morning of the social. Okay? Yeah. Yep. So AM Tech, you're going to check in with me and I'll have them. Okay? Late entry, check in with me. Okay? Any questions? All right, I'm going to stop the recording. And then if anybody has any questions afterward, they can ask me now, or you can just